Make that big boss less special. It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level. Second level gaming. Second level.
Hello, Internet, and welcome back to Codename Morpheus, your guide into the world of the virtual, featuring myself, Tom, and my buddy Keegan next to me, as always. This is episode 29. How are you feeling?
I'm 1 1/4 Red Bulls in, so I'm good.
You're half cut.
Yeah, we are actually, fun fact, I'm trying to do a vlog behind the scenes of this week, so hopefully that'll be out. It may not be out by the time this episode goes live, but I'm hoping to get out either late this week or early next week.
It's fun times.
So keep that in mind. But I'm good. I'm lots of things happening in the world of VR recently. GDC happened.
Yep.
Lots of sales. Lots of
Big
cool
sales this
new games announced, potentially cool games, They're new games, but whether they're cool or not is still debatable.
Remains to be seen.
Yeah. I mean, we all thought Impatient was going to be amazing, and then it was not.
Impatient was
but then
okay.
Moss came out, and Moss was a fantastic game. Watching Little Wheezy play that game. Little Wheezy. Wee Wheezy.
Wee
Wheezy.
Yeah.
His son. Those of you who were like, where were we last week? We did a 24-hour charity live stream. Check out our show tomorrow.
Some of you were there.
The official podcast. Yeah,
Thanks for joining.
official Level 2 podcast. We'll talk about our experiences during that. There also is a behind-the-scenes documentary style shot from you recording shit. So check that out tomorrow. Well, check that out now, but tomorrow we'll talk about it. And I'm spitting everywhere.
It's all over my shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is Codename Morpheus, your weekly dip into the world of the virtual. We dig into the news, the new releases, the sales. We have a spotlight, and this week actually it's flipped on its head a little bit. And it's usually me doing the spotlight. I did the spotlight for indie yesterday, which means that you get to do the spotlight
Because I have a game you don't have yet.
You
Finally.
do. You played a game I haven't played. So that's going to be on Knockout League for those of you that are interested. And then, of course, we have our question to round things up at the end. You know the story by now, most of you. If you're new to the channel, though, if you watch the 24-hour stream and we sucked you in somehow, then welcome. And hopefully you will stick around and tell your friends, because we like that when you
All
do.
my friends are dead.
That's what we were
That's
playing
called
earlier.
a throwback.
It's a throwback
to things they don't know about.
They don't know it, so it doesn't count as a throwback. But yeah.
What was it? Turbo Negro, Turbo Negro.
Turbo Negro.
All my friends are dead.
Yeah,
we were
good
playing
song.
that this morning.
Good tune. All right, so let's dig right into the new games this week. There are a couple. They're sort of spaced out a little bit this week. We have 2 that got released on the Tuesday, and then we got 1 that gets released on the 21st, and there's another that gets released on the 22nd. So they're kind of just like spreading them out throughout the week there. The first couple, the one is actually a layover from was supposed to be released last week or the week before potentially. I actually remember talking about it, and it never found the light of day. It's finally here, and that is Audio Beats. So Audio Beats is a rhythm-based drumming game where you have this sort of electronic drum kit in front of you, and there's lots of like banging on drums and like holding things down in time and tempo and hitting things in the correct direction when it gives you a directional arrow instead of just a beat to hit, and it's just a fun sort of rhythm-based
We call that
game.
an E-drum.
An E-drum? Is that the official terminology?
No, I just made that up.
It should be.
But it can be.
Works out.
Because they have e-cigs, you have e-drums,
Yeah,
you
why
have
not?
e-books, you have
E-drum
you have
life,
E.T.
He's an electronic terrestrial. So no, it's...
It might be. He has his finger glows.
That's true. So that was a fun one. $10. Can't really argue with the price. I really enjoyed it. I played it when it was on the Hong Kong store, as you may remember from our Hong Kong PSVR video, which is interesting actually, because one of the other games coming out on the 21st, it was also on that same video, and then we had Happy Drummer. So 3 of the 4 games on our Hong Kong VR only video have now officially had a North American release. So that's cool.
Do we know if it's in Europe yet?
The holdout is Kaiji.
I know it's North America,
I
but
don't know if it's in Europe. It's a good question. The other game that came out on Tuesday was Floor Plan. And Floor Plan is an interesting looking title where you're essentially in an elevator for the majority of the game. And your job is to kind of do trading of sorts. So you're going from floor to floor, gathering things for your inventory and then sort of trading it with people on different floors.
Barter system.
Yeah, bargain system. I don't know much more than that. Say barter. Bargain, barter, same.
Barter is the official term.
If you want to barter, you got to get a bargain. And speaking of bargains, that's on sale. It's $4.79 down from $5.99.
Save $1.20.
Save $1.20 on it. So don't expect, Skyrim levels of epicness on that one. But I will say we watched the trailer, and I think both of us are like, it looks all right. For the price tag, Hopefully it's a good time. I think it has to be like funny or something. Like if it's funny, and the trailer was pretty funny. So if it's funny, then I'm all right with it. If it's not that funny, it probably will be kind of dull and boring. But worth a shot. So Floor Plan was the other one for Tuesday. The one for the 21st is the other one from the Hong Kong video, and that is Lunar Stone: Origin of Blood. I would highly recommend that you do not pick that game up. No offense to the developers, obviously, but it is very unpolished, and despite being a kind of half decent wave-based shooter,
We got plenty of those.
yeah, we got plenty of them, and it is nowhere near the top of that pile. It has some horrendously hokey acting in it, voice acting and actual animation and stuff, and just really was a very bizarre game.
I got goosebumps.
Did you?
Yeah.
Is it what?
I don't know why, but I just got goosebumps.
Is it my smooth dulcet tones?
We can say that.
Okay. So yeah, Lunar Stone. No idea on the price for that one, but it doesn't matter because you're not going to buy it. And then the big one for this week, and the one that I am personally most excited about, and the one that I will buy, despite your numerous attempts to make me not buy it, is Ark Park.
I'm still wait and see on this.
I think it's going to be great.
You know why
I think
I'm
it's
a
gonna
wait
be
and
good.
see? Because I love Ark, and I've said this before. I played Ark early access, played hundreds of hours of that game. Ark Park was announced. I was like, I had this vision of what it was. It was not that vision. They said what it was. I was like, that's not good. And then fucking, was it 2 weeks ago, they came out and said all this stuff, and I was like, that sounds interesting, but I need to see you do that in the way I think it's going to be implemented. Because if it's not the way I think it's going to be implemented, then I'm going to have an issue with it.
You talk real fast.
Hey, got $2, $2, $3.
Should be an auctioneer, yeah. But anyway, Ark Park
I can't read,
has had a lot of news come out recently surrounding it that have basically tried to give you a little bit more information on what it actually involves. And all of it good. I mean, all of it sounds great, like genetically crossbreeding dinosaurs and all kinds of cool
Wait
stuff.
for the other shoe to drop, Tom. We went through this before with Star Wars Battlefront. It was all good, all good, all good. Then all of a sudden, the last hour is like.
I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm just.
I'm not saying it's gonna be Star Wars Battlefront either.
So good.
What you don't know is every genetically modified dinosaur comes in a loot box,
That would be.
and you have to pay $20 per loot box.
I don't think EA is making this game, so we should be okay. So anyway, that's been one that's been on people's radars for a long time. It does not really have as much in common with the original Ark game as one might think,
IP.
but it does look
It
good.
reminds me a little bit like Rush of Blood, where it's got that skin, but it has nothing to do with.
Graphically, it does look pretty impressive as well, I think. So we'll kind of see, like Keegan said, wait and see. But I think
You're gonna get it.
Hopefully, it's going to be good times.
But
I'm going to get it because I want to review it either
Yeah.
way, and I just want to play with dinosaurs, man. It's just the way I live my life. The 22nd is the release date for that, and again, no price tag. The price tag will actually probably factor into whether I get it or not as well. So those are your new releases for the week: Audio Beats, Floor Plan, Lunar Stone, Origin of Blood, and Ark Park. So moving on to the sales, we have a whole host of sales this week. It's not quite epic levels that I can fit it on one page on my phone, so it's not quite the epic levels that it was a couple weeks back, but still is a really decent sale nonetheless. So I'm going to go through these. We can stop here and there if we feel the need to, but I'm mostly just going to rip through them.
I'm gonna say yes, no.
Okay, so Farpoint is on sale for $30, down from its original $50.
Yes, get it with the aim now.
I'm debating getting this just so I don't have to fuck around with the disc anymore. Yeah, Farpoint is definitely an aim or don't do it kind of situation.
Yeah.
Star Trek Bridge Crew, your personal fave,
Hell
20,
yeah.
down from 50.
Our buddy Bertrand's probably picking this up, so it means we're gonna be streaming it. You don't have it yet, do you?
I don't.
Hey, you want to pick it up? It's on sale, Tom. Did you hear that? Did you hear that there's a sale right now this week?
I already got one game that you told me to get that I was never going to get, so I don't know if I'm going to get
Which game was that?
or Overwatch.
Oh, yeah. Look how that turned out.
yeah.
I'm just saying.
All right.
I'm just saying. I
Eagle
was right.
Flight, $14.79, down from $40.
I've not played it, but I'm actually interested in this. This is one of the games when it first came out. It was one of the few more expensive launch games.
Physical release.
And I was just like, but now maybe. I've heard good things about it. I just was confused about how a Eagle multiplayer flying
It lives
game would look.
interesting.
It's like Quidditch with eagles.
It's Ubi, so you know it has a little bit of weight behind it. But I think the big issue I would have with it right now is the player base there. That's the only concern I really have for that game. But at $14.79, hopefully there's a little boost to it regardless. Archangel, $6 down from $30. You played this, right?
no, I've
Finally?
not played it yet.
You
I
still
have
not played
it. I have it. I haven't played it.
Okay.
I bought it.
Yeah, $6 down from $30. Originally, when it first came out, it was $40, and I thought it was worth every penny then. So for $6, again, steal of the week, Archangel, stunning game, really fun. If you ever wanted to see what it feels like to power a giant mech with a shield and a gun and just really well cinematically done story in VR, then this is perfect for you. No Heroes Allowed VR, 12 down from 30. Radial G Racing Evolved, otherwise known as Not Wipeout, 12 down from 30. Riggs, 9 down from 30.
Hopefully they already got that for free for PS Plus fan, because that was PS
Riggs,
Plus
most people already have Riggs. Time Machine VR, the very divisive title, because there's lots of people that like it and lots of people that hate it, and we're on the like it side. I really enjoyed my time with Time Machine VR, so 12 down from 30. Werewolves Within, 9.89 down from 30.
Turn on crossplay for that game, because finding a game, so cross-platform play, I guess. You can play Vive and Oculus people, but finding a game in that game sometimes can be rough. And the VR unit doesn't matter because you're just playing a whodunit game, so you got to hide through your voice and all that kind of stuff. It's a fun game. I played it a lot back in the day. I've not played it recently, and I enjoyed my time in it.
It was one of your first social VR experiences, wasn't it?
It was wonderful. It actually made me talk to strangers in video games again.
Yeah.
Which is weird to say.
So there's a bunch of Dying Reborn. My list is a little off here, but I'll give them to you. Dying Reborn Bundle, which is the Dying Reborn regular game plus Dying Reborn VR. The regular game has 6 levels, I think. The VR is 3 of those levels. So 6 total, 3 in VR, 3 without. The bundle is $7.50 down from $25. Just the VR stuff, if you don't want to care about the regular stuff, is $3 down from $10. And then Weeping Doll is also $3 down from $10, but you can get Dying Reborn and Weeping Doll as a bundle together, which is $6 down from $20. So basically no difference. You can buy them separately or together in a bundle. And the same goes for Pixel Gear and Ace Banana. Pixel Gear and Ace Banana, $7.50 down from $25. Ace Banana by itself is $4.50 down from $15,
so
and
you save 30
Pixel
cents.
Gear is $3.30 down from $11. So you do actually save a little bit on that one. And those are from Oasis Games, who have a lot of these. They were like some of the first adopters to PSVR, so they have these
Ace
two
Banana
special
I've always looked at, but every time I see it, I'm just like, I have so many better things to play now that it's just like, that probably would have been fun at launch, but like now I'm like, my bar has gotten a lot higher.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's a bad game. It looks, every time it goes on sale, I look at it.
Yeah,
and I'm like, do I want this?
I mean,
at some point I'll pull the trigger. I'm
$4.50. It's about as low as it's gonna get, I think. Although saying that, I remember when Weeping Doll was $1. So, Tethered, 10 from 25. Lots of praise for that when it first came out. This one is one that you should definitely consider if you've at all been playing Dirt Rally or Gran Turismo. Drive Club VR, 6 down from 20. So Archangel and Drive Club. If you haven't got either of those games, they're at the perfect price point right about now. PlayStation VR Worlds, $7 down from 20.
It's a no-brainer if you don't already have it.
Absolutely. Star Blood Arena, 6 down from 20. I've heard nothing but good things.
Do you think we're
played
going to PlayStation Worlds 2?
Probably not.
I know
think
they're
that's
doing,
what the demo
I know they're
discs
doing.
are,
I know they're doing. Well, kind of. I know they're doing. Obviously, they're working on what's the name of the game that they're working on? London Studio, with the
Blood and Truth.
That's it. I couldn't think of the name of it. It's the extension of.
Well, I almost feel like the PSVR Worlds was needed as an introduction to the system, but now the system is here. I think you might get a PSVR Worlds 2 if there is a VR headset 2. I don't think we're going to get one.
You mean in 2020?
Yeah.
Cool.
Static, $8 down from 20. Stifled, 12 down from 20. Now, Stifled gets a lot of shit. Let me just say, Stifled is a good game. I played it. I really liked it. It's weird, but if you like horror or just like enclosed spaces, it's kind of terrifying.
Let me also point out Tom likes bad games.
That's true. Super Stardust Ultra VR, 6 down from 20. Tumble VR, which you like a lot.
Tumble's a very overlooked game. It's $3 from $10.
Stacking game.
And I feel like for people who, like family, I use this as an example. We had a question like probably a month or so ago now.
What would you show a family?
What would you show somebody that's like good for all ages? And Tumble kind of popped in my head because everybody understands stacking and puzzle games, and it reminds me of Tetris. And I think it's severely overrated because I overlooked it, and then I got it, and then I fell in love with it. Oh, that's what I meant. The other way.
3 from 10. And then lastly, and this is a new one for sales, and honestly, you're not going to get a better price than this. $1.40 down from $7 for Honor and
So I was in a gaming group I'm a part of, and somebody asked if Honor or Duty is worth $1.40, and my response was, if you have to ask for $1.40, you probably don't want to buy it. Because at that point, you should either be sold or not.
I would say this.
Like $1.40 is literally like
it's
you go
not
to McDonald's and buy a hamburger.
There's a lot of people that play Honor and Duty that really love it, and I'm still trying to figure out why. Because you have experiences like the Farpoint 1v1, which again is admittedly 1v1, not a team-based shooter, but still, you have Firewall and Alvo on the way.
I hope those games are good. If those games are good,
Bravo Team didn't quite live up to expectations, but I'm sure it's better than Honor and Duty. But Honor and Duty for me was like I just didn't enjoy it at all. Like I can't understand how people are not they're not like really turned off by how bad that game is. Like I don't want to be the guy that's like, oh, it's in VR, therefore it's good. Like, no, it's a bad game. And when you make a bad game in VR, it doesn't make it a good game.
You sound like me.
I know.
You sound like me.
And we're melding.
I think we flip-flopped a few times.
Right?
Here. So normally I'm the one, because I say the phrase that, why is it VR? Why is it in VR? That's...
Yeah, and this is a case of like I understand why it's in VR. It just doesn't make it good. And and here's the thing, like
because VR can make some meh things good, but not great.
It definitely makes it better. But the sequel looks more promising. The sequel is
and the fact that they announced the sequel like what 2 weeks after they
after they got released. The VR QA.
That reminds me of a little developer that tell you not to buy ever. Project Cars, where they said, hey, we made money and now we need more money to do a sequel, even though we didn't finish what we promised on the first game. Never buy a Project Cars game. As good as they are, I liked Project Cars 1 because of what it was.
Got burned by Project Cars. Ken, the thing they got burned with, if you've not been following us for long, was that they actually promised VR support for the first Project Cars game.
They promised Codename Morpheus support.
Yeah.
That's how long ago it was. And then they're like, oh, sorry. And then somebody asked them, and they're like, yeah, we're not doing it. And I was like, cool. And then there's a rumor that's going to be in the second one, and I'm going to be like, fuck you. If that happens...
You have to see it.
I'm not getting it.
So that's your sales roundup for the week. I would say the big picks there are Archangel and Drive Club VR. Those are the ones that are probably the cheapest price for the best quality content. So if you have neither of those games, I would definitely tell you to pick those up. And of course, Farpoint, Star Trek, those are always a good time too. PlayStation VR Worlds as well for $7 if you don't have that, because I don't think they bundle that anymore. Do they? Do they still bundle that?
No.
It's usually a different game now.
You can. It's
like a Gran Turismo.
You can get the bundles
for you Skyrim bundlers out there. Go get PSVR Worlds for $7.
You can get the bundle, but I don't think they like sell it new. Not new.
I think most people now are buying a game bundle,
yes.
like they're getting Turismo or whatever with it.
Because the bundle that we bought had the moves and Worlds and the headset
and the demo too.
And the demo.
Cool. All right, so on to the news for the week. The news for the week starts with a bit of... I don't really have anything like crazy this week. Like usually I like to start news with something like super like,
what's your convinced Keegan VR is still good? Do you have that in here?
I don't remember if I do. I don't know.
You let me down, man.
So, yeah, I know. The news has been thin on the ground this week. There's a lot of like new game talk releases, so we'll spend a bit of time on that. But as far as other
this
stuff,
week is like the news. It was like, here's the new games, and it was just like, okay.
You can kind of tell we're creeping into con season, and everyone's keeping their mouth shtum on new things. So Apollo 11, which is I really enjoyed this experience. You less or so.
I was mixed,
but I really enjoyed it.
It was good, but it could have been so much better. I think that's where I stand on it. I enjoyed my time in it, but it could have been way better.
I'll concede. So Apollo 11 VR, for those of you that don't know, is basically like an educational VR game that has very, very few gameplay elements that are kind of mixed in here and there. The idea is that you get to go to the moon with Neil Armstrong and back, which is cool, right? It's a nice idea. But they definitely play on the nostalgia elements of it by having like, JFK speech.
That JFK speech is probably my favorite part, which is the very beginning.
Cool. It was very cool.
I love I'm a big JFK fan. I'm a big, like, that era fan, I guess, basically between World War II, Cold War era. I love because technology jumped so far, so fast.
Yeah. So, I mean, the good news is that there is a patch that is out for Apollo 11, which is going to add pro support and a better frame rate, which is pretty nice. It may be that the resolution has been slightly buffed too, but
frame rate issues.
No, I
But
didn't
can remember.
either, but I mean, it can't hurt to,
No,
to
I just,
doll it up a
I just
little
don't
bit.
remember having any
Basically,
frame rate
pro
issues in it.
support patch, which means that, you know, if you did feel like you were a little grainy or whatever, then hopefully maybe go back through the experience and see if it's improved any since then. But so that was a pretty cool one. One thing that has been, and this is weird because this has kind of become a little bit of a viral thing. I don't know how many times have you seen you know those videos that have text on the top and the bottom and then the video in the middle, and you see them on Facebook all the time and everyone hates them? You know what I'm talking about? It's like a meme, but it has like words. It's like a video meme with words on the top and the bottom. That's static.
We call that a meme.
A meme?
It's a video meme.
Yeah.
It's like a blog.
If
with
we didn't,
with
we
video,
should
it's a
now.
blog.
That's actually really,
trademarking it.
pretty smart. Veeam.
Heard it here first.
There
It's a
you go.
Veeam.
The developers behind a very popular in-development game called Beat Saber have had some serious luck with going viral on one of their videos recently, which got turned into a Veeam, where basically it just shows like a real-life person with lightsabers like doing you know, rhythm-based movements, and it's like Star Wars Guitar Hero or whatever is the tagline. Anyway, the developers of Beat Saber finally came out and confirmed a PSVR release for the game and said it should be out within a few months. Here's the exact thing. Excuse me. We have a lot of questions about platforms and release dates, so here is some info. Release date, not decided yet, but hopefully soon. Not more than a few months, in parentheses. Platforms, the game will be available on HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, PSVR, it says PlayStation 4 VR with Move controllers, so it's also going to be Move-based, and Windows Mixed Reality
I'm assuming
headsets.
it's going to be moves only then, since they put that in there.
I would think so.
Which makes sense for what it is.
Price, not decided yet. Very probably something around the $20 price mark on PC. Soundtrack will be released after the game launch. 2 songs are already available on Spotify. $100 Bills and Escape by Jaroslav Beck. That's Jaroslav Beck.
That's the lesser known Beck.
Yes, it's Beck's Slavic brother. Yeah. So yeah, if you want to go check out those tunes, feel free. And yeah, so Beat Saber is the one that you may have seen this kind of video going around of this lady chopping up things. I mean, it's an interesting concept, whether it actually works or not, or whether it's like it is entertaining for more than like 5 minutes.
Remember that Vive Star Wars thing they showed? I still like Disney, Star Wars, VR is perfect comment. I think they're probably waiting for it to be better technologically. Yeah. I think is where they're at, because that's why they partnered with Vive, because Vive is the high resolution, the best one right now. And now the new Vive Pro, $800 came out. I'm interested. Like, I really want a Star Wars game, but I think that somebody like Disney, that's such a perfectionist, is waiting for it to be what it should be. Yeah, which kind of sucks. But
I mean, you know what?
They did the Star. Well, I guess they did
if it's worth the wait.
Battlefront
as long as it's worth the wait. As long as it's worth the wait. That's all I'm saying. Like, I don't want them to wait too long and then still release some garbage. You know what I mean? Like, it has to
Disney,
be.
They won't. Disney's pretty good at doing stuff like that.
I don't know. We'll see.
They own fucking
everything.
They own the world. Yeah. They'll just partner with ILM. It's fine.
So the video that I'm about to show you behind me is a little disturbing. Fair viewer warning. And the reason why I bring this up is because of the fact that it's a little disturbing. This is, as far as I can tell, the first VR game that allows you to literally dismember the person in front of you, and it's called Tainted Fate. Tainted Fate. I
read it as Tainted Fart.
You did. Tainted Fate shows off dismemberment physics in this new video, where essentially it just shows you tearing arms and heads off of bodies. Now, this almost is a throwback to our video game violence conversation, especially concerning VR, about like how realistic it can be. Like, I mean, it's hokey. It's not like, oh my god, I feel like I'm actually tearing someone's head off. It's like, pop, and then kind of like, woo, throw it. It's going to be fun. So it's a very hokey way of doing it, but it does raise questions about like the legitimacy of this type of level of violence in VR. Obviously, I could give two shits about it, but I do wonder whether this is going to have some questions that they have to answer if they continue down the road that they're going down.
Another throwback to that conversation. Did you hear about the boy that shot his sister over a video game controller?
No.
So video game violence right there.
That's controller rage. That's a whole other kettle of fish.
I mean, I'm not even going to say what I was going to say there. No, like this, like
you watched this, right? How do you feel about it?
I get why they did it, and it has moments, but it just, as the video is by itself, it doesn't make any sense. But if you integrate it into something, it would make a lot of sense.
In the context of the game,
in the context of the
makes
game,
more sense.
As long as you're not just... The problem I had with it, personally, was not the dismemberment, and this is stupid because I play with shit all the time in VR, it was the playing with the head after the fact. Like, that's where, like, my line steps in of, like, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Like, the popping the head off
To
and
be
throwing it,
fair,
that was cool, but the guy was, like, shaking it around.
Some
like,
of them were humans, some of them were like elf things.
Yeah.
I don't know what they really were, but there was like a legit like human dude that just got his head straight ripped off.
So that's
kind of
for
crazy.
me personally. That's kind of where the line. Like I'm cool, and I've always said everything's allowed to be made, but for me to play it, I don't think I would, just because
I would.
that was one of those things where I'm just like,
Yeah, I'm far too dark not to play that game. So, I mean, make up your own minds, but yeah, Tainted Fate, it's one that completely wasn't even on my radar, but now it is, so I guess the marketing worked. But yeah, you get to rip people's limbs off in VR, so have fun with that. And then, physical release time. We've been discussing over the previous weeks about how occasionally we'll go back, and there's a game that got released a little while back that gets a physical release out of the blue, and the weirdest...
Because of limited run games.
Yeah, limited run games are awesome for that. But Pixel Gear, of all games, as I play Pixel Gear, let me tell you, I don't think it warrants a physical release. It's not a bad game. It's actually a really, really good game, but it is like maybe half an hour to an hour's worth of content. It's like 3 levels that have, well, 3 areas, I should say, that have multiple levels in them. A boss fight and you're done. And it's a really, really well done game. So props to Oasis for that. But 1,800 copies, 1,800 copies total, are going to be made of this physical release run.
Well, you know that this is going to be
Pixel
a collector's edition type thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone that's like, you know, heavy into the VR collection stage right now will probably be interested in picking up a copy. But yeah, it's kind of a neat idea that they're taking this game and randomly making it into a physical copy. I do wonder if it will be like something that like shows up on
broken.
Their website's broken.
I can't click the link.
No,
and I went to limitedgames.com and it's still broken.
I'll deal with it later.
Well, no, it's not your link. Like their whole website's down.
Oh. Well, maybe it just got overrun by the 1,800. Maybe now is when it's selling, there's like everyone's just broken it.
So think about it. So one of the things I'll say with like something like this is think about the games that are worth so much money now. Like the old games that are worth a lot of money are not the good games. They're worth they're worth a little bit more because people have nostalgia for it. But it's the ones that, like you said, are hard to find or like need a limited run of them. So this, if you're going to be a game collector, if you're one of those people that's going to collect all the physical VR games, and I know some people that in some groups that I'm a part of that do that, like get this game. But if you're not a collector, I would say just buy it digitally.
And you got to get it fast because you're not going to have a whole lot of time.
Yeah, their website's already down.
Yeah,
it's already broken.
I reckon that's what's happened. I reckon during this show they started selling it, and that's why it's crushed. Unless there's just like another game, because they do a lot of those types of things. I think they were the ones that did Res as well, Res Infinite.
They did a lot.
That didn't have a physical release until they picked it up, or someone picked it up. 8-bit, I think, is the other one. Anyway, some physical release for Pixel Gear coming, which is a surprise to most of us. So the other thing to bring up this week, which I thought that you would like specifically, this might be my convince Keegan that VR is doing great one. Now, you played a game during our 24-hour stream that fucked you up for the majority of the rest of the 24-hour stream. What was that game?
I assume you're talking about Sprint Vector?
I am talking about Sprint Vector.
I went off a cliff in Sprint Vector after the stream when I was playing by myself.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so
how was that?
So I went back in because it's now, I don't think I've told you this. That's not my workout routine, is playing, well, I tried to play half an hour Sprint Vector, half an hour of Knockout League, but sometimes I can't make the whole hour because it's fucking nuts. But there was one track in Sprint Vector where you have to do a 180 and come back around. So you duck under this thing, spin back around, come back out. Well, first time going in, you don't realize you have to do a 180. And I ducked down and I was like, oh, there's a hole here. Like, go off the edge. It was like a 150-foot drop, and my stomach went, woo. And I immediately took the headset off. I was like, I've gotta stop. Because I kept falling. Like, there's no end to the fall. The only reason I stopped falling is because I hit some pipe down, like way down there.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think I'm supposed
That's
to
when
be
you just
down
close your
here.
eyes and like, okay.
That's what I ended up doing.
Waiting
but
for
like
to hear the noise of
I pulled it
restarting.
off because I was like,
So Servios, good friends of the show, we'd love to thank them as well, by the way, for their contribution to the 24-hour stream. Actually, let's do this real quick. Servios, Catch and Release, Secret Location, and Polyarch, the developers that gave us VR keys for to give away during the 24-hour podcast. Thank you so much to all of you guys.
24-hour stream, not podcast.
That's what I meant. Survios, developers of Sprint Vector, are making a boxing experience to add to your collection of physical things, except this one has a bit of a movie tie-in. So, the studio today announced Creed Rise to Glory in partnership with MGM Interactive. It's a VR boxing experience that ties into the movie series starring Michael B. Jordan and spinning off from the obviously beloved Rocky franchise. You'll play as Adonis Creed and begin training under none other than Rocky Balboa, battling your way through the ranks as you tour some of the world's best-known rings. Boxing in VR is nothing new, and games like Knockout League have already taken a very decent jab at it. But Survios is looking to improve the standards of VR melee combat with what it calls Phantom Melee technology.
Their website's back up.
Awesome. This new system combines responsive controls with a virtual stamina meter that will slowly fatigue the VR character, causing them to stagger, at which point you won't have control over your punches. Sounds like an intriguing system that wants to create an authentic boxing experience with realistic hit reactions. Survios will be showcasing the game at the 2018 GDC conference, and there's GDC, I suppose.
Game Developer Conference.
I know conference is like redundant there. Though there's no word yet on when the game will release and what platforms it will debut on. That said, Creed 2 is due for release towards the end of the year, so we wouldn't expect it to be far off. So this has not yet been fully confirmed for PSVR. However, it's by the guys that made Sprint Vector, so I fully expect it to show up at some point.
Yeah.
What do you think? Did you watch the movie Creed?
No.
I haven't seen it either.
I haven't watched Creed. I've never watched a Rocky movie.
God, you suck so bad.
I've been to the Rocky statue. There's a picture of me jumping at the Rocky statue with all my friends. Yeah, I love Philly. But yeah, I've never seen a Rocky movie. The IP does nothing for me. And my initial thought was, if this is a realistic boxing game versus, I don't know, we'll talk about it later, but Knockout League is more cartoony, reminds me of a little bit of Punch-Out, then I might be more intrigued by it. But if it's, and I'm guessing since it's based on Creed, it's going to be realistic, but if it's more cartoony than real, Knockout League, again, talk about later, does a good job of that already. So it's like, right now, I feel like my boxing quota for games has been filled by the one game that's done it really well.
You should play Drunken Bar Fight. That makes you.
That's not a boxing game. That's just a punching game.
Technically, it's a boxing.
Well, no, it's not like traditional boxing.
No,
it's a punching game.
But
you
you're
can
still
punch stuff.
Punching.
Yeah, well, that's like saying Fruit Ninja's a boxing game then, because you're swinging your arms. Same thing, because you're punching fruit.
So here's my thought. I'm divided on this, and I'm divided because Survios are really fucking good at what they do, but also it's a tie-in movie game, which never, ever, ever, ever works.
That's not true.
With very rare exceptions. With very rare exceptions. That's a kind of almost a pun, because rare. Anyway. So I would say I am kind of on the fence a little bit about it. I want to see more. I don't think Survios will fuck it up. I think they'll do it justice, but I just I would rather they took like things they learned from Sprint Vector, like in terms of dynamic movement and that kind of, and like a deep system of dynamic movement, and turned that into like a new game, like Boxing Vector or something like that, like with crazy characters and stuff. But I'm also like not mad about it. Like I'm also like, you know what? If a studio or like MGM came up to me and said, "Hey, do you want this franchise and make a game of it?" If I knew I could make good games and I was allowed to just like use their characters,
that's the thing. If they allow them to use the IP, fine. Let them build the game and then put the skin over top, essentially.
Right.
I know that's not how you do it, but that's essentially what would happen, because Sprint Vector is an amazing experience. If you could put any sort of skin on there, you could put an Olympic skin on there if you wanted to.
Perfectly,
the game's good. Like, a good game is a good game, doesn't matter what the skin looks like. Obviously, having the IP sometimes will bring people in that wouldn't necessarily be a part of it.
Yeah.
But the game has to be good on the fundamental level of whatever you're doing. So,
absolutely.
I don't know, I just, like, prime example, the Spider-Man from Insomniac. I know it's not VR, but like, people are interested in that game because it's Spider-Man. If you took that game and took the skin off and the game was still good, I think people would still look at it, just probably not the same aspect as they would with
Nice
Spider-Man.
part about that, though, is that it isn't verbatim based on a movie.
No, yeah,
You know
but that's
I
what
mean?
I'm saying. Like IP
I don't think
helps.
this is either, but like the fact that Michael B. Jordan and everything's in it, I'm just like,
Yeah,
Anyway, one of the other big releases or announcements rather during GDC was Catch
game.
and Release. Yeah, not the studio Catch and Release, the game Catch and Release, which is a fishing game, and it looks to be so far anyway probably the most realistic fishing game.
You can drive your boat
for PSVR. You can
drive
drive
your
your boat. You get to choose your lures and things like that.
Radio.
There's still some goofiness to it, but it's a fishing game,
VR.
man. Like you're allowed to sit back and have a little bit of goofy. I mean, that's what when you're fishing, you want to be able to
It'd be
jam on the
boring.
radio and
If
wear a
you
fancy
made,
hat.
If you made a true simulation fishing game, I think a lot of people get bored by it. It would not sell
Except for
very well.
fishermen, but yeah.
But
you're
how many
right.
fishermen play VR versus going out and fishing?
That's true. So yeah, you get to wear fancy fisherman's hats and things like that. So I mean, there's definitely a little bit of charm to it, but graphically, it looks very impressive. I don't have any
the
complaints.
part that I really like is the trailer that we have is gameplay trailer, and it looks like you said, it looks good versus like a cinematic trailer of like, is that what it's actually going to look
Yeah.
like? Like this is the trailer they show looks realistic, looks like something we're going to get our hands on, and like you said, it looks good.
Yeah.
So I'm not a huge fishing fan, but we always
Fishing,
for a long time wanted a fishing game. So
yeah.
I think we found our fishing game for VR.
This looks to be the one. There's been a couple out, but this looks to be
for
the
me,
one.
the price point's going to be kind of the dictator.
I don't think it'll be more than $30.
I was gonna say my guess was 20 to 30. If they
Under 30, I'm happy.
if they do
Over
anything,
30, no.
Yeah, I was gonna say if they do anything above that. Also, it depends on the other thing I want with the fishing game, because I'm very as much a stickler for my fishing games. Multiple environments, variety of fish. Any sort of is there competitive something or other? Like, can you do a tournament and like you have to catch 5 fish
Keep
and
it
have the
interesting.
biggest weight?
Yeah.
Or is it just you sitting out there and fishing constantly?
Well, the tagline there says just you on a lake. So I don't know how deep that's going to get, but it'll be interesting to see when that does eventually get its release. Another game that was announced for during GDC to get a PSVR release was for spring 2018, which means not far away. Hopalong Cowboy, the Badlands. So this is kind of weird. It's a cowboy game in VR, which I'm not mad about, but it's kind of goofy in nature. It's a little cartoony.
I've got news before you keep going.
Oh, please.
I found a link here. So, information is for catch and release. Stylized, beautiful postcard approach to graphics. Every view makes you feel like you're on vacation. Rowing in VR, the first game to pull off rowing mechanics, getting around a lake with no motion sickness. And the goal is to relax, not to stress. Explore the lake, find treasures, listen to the radio, interact with items in your boat, catch the fish in mission-based campaign, or with no timers or requirements in free play mode. So they have both, which is good. So that's a little bit more intriguing. Where they're like, okay, here's
So they have thought about it. That's good.
because they need to give you some reason to go in, because if you're just sitting on a lake, eventually that'll just get boring. So
Fair enough.
Anyways, back to your thing.
Hopalong Cowboy. Yeah, so Hopalong Cowboy, the one kind of weird thing that I noticed about this is, what's the name of those? What's like a horse head on a stick and the kids would pretend it's like a real horse? You know what that's called? Is it a hobby horse? No, it's not a hobby horse, because that's a gym thing. Is a Hopalong horse, maybe? That's maybe where the name comes from. Anyway, so when you're a kid, some kids anyway had it was like a stick with a horse's head on it, and you would like
back in the dark ages when Tom was a kid.
Well, yeah, we had a ball on a stick.
I never had that.
Anyway, it's a thing that kids used.
I had a rocking
especially
horse.
to be cowboys and cowgirls, of course, as well. But yeah, so Hopalong Cowboy, that's your horse. This is weird to me because there's footage of it, as you'll see, where you're looking over at someone else and they're just holding this little fucking stick and jogging along. So it's kind of goofy, but I like that. I think the goofy factor is actually going to make it fun. Don't expect Red Dead in VR. That's not what's happening here. But it looks like a decent sized game. It has all the things you want to, in a cowboy Wild West game. There's lots of shooting and duels and saloons and things like that. So I'd love it if they could implement some Hold'em or something and some interesting little things in there. I've not played it. It has I think previously been released for Rift and Vive, but it's getting its PSVR confirmed release spring 2018. So that's some fun news there. And then another new game coming out that got announced recently, The Mage's Tale, which is a AAA game. It's an RPG game. It says AAA. It looks almost AA to me, but they're billing it as AAA, which probably means they're looking for a higher price tag. But yeah, The Mage's Tale is in development. It's about an 8 to 10 hour RPG game. We watched some of the trailer footage and everything for it before the show. And what did you think?
I'm lukewarm on it.
Lukewarm.
What I saw was cool looking. Like, you can mix spells and you fight things like you would expect in a fantasy style RPG. The part they didn't show me was the quest. Well, how you're going about quests.
Yeah.
Is it just teleport to a location, go through a dungeon?
I don't remember
or is it,
seeing any movement either now that you mention it.
Is it open world? Like, you were very much stationary at
It looks like you're using the move controllers, but I didn't see Smooth Loco or anything in there. So usually when they don't show Smooth Loco, there is no Smooth Loco.
Yeah.
There is no Loco. So
it looked interesting,
maybe.
but I don't know if they're touting it as a AAA RPG. You need to have, at this point, Skyrim level equivalents when it comes to, obviously not.
It doesn't have to be 100 hours.
No,
but
you have to have the quest-based missions that they have. You have to have the movement. Well, hopefully better movement than what they had. I don't know how Skyrim would be a little bit better, but I said it when we were watching the video. I go, I don't know what it is. Something about this just seems kind of off.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look bad, but there's just something that I think
there might be
there's something missing.
A trick in the tail to it.
Yeah, there's something missing there that I couldn't quite put my finger on. And I don't want to say it looked bad, because it didn't by any stretch of the imagination. But they didn't show me enough to want me to buy that over something else.
Graphically impressive.
Especially when you're going against
enemies
Skyrim.
Looked interesting. You do have some regular kind of old enemies, but also they had some sort of towering giant enemies, which is always nice in VR. That's a good experience. So yeah, it's kind of a wait and see, basically. It's I mean, everyone that's kind of played it has given it high reviews, so there's that.
They have the mixing spell thing, which was kind of cool looking.
Yeah, a bit of crafting
that
in
kind of
there.
stuff is cool,
Yeah.
but like I said, to me, I think what it was they didn't show you how you're going about your missions. Is it open world? Is it linear?
There wasn't
Are you
enough
teleporting?
in the trailer.
Yeah.
But, maybe when we get to see more and more gameplay footage.
the dude that was announcing it. It was
The voiceover guy?
it was funny. It had a sense of humor to it. So that's the other thing, is what tone are you going for? Are you going for a Skyrim serious RPG, or are you going for a humorous RPG?
Speaking of tone, Airtone, an anime rhythm game, is also coming out to PSVR. Now, the Airtone Twitter page...
You want to read that Japanese for me, Tom?
Posted this. Sure. It's backwards C, squiggly L. No, it's, so Airtone _VR on Twitter is the official, I guess, thing for Airtone. Airtone, anime-based rhythm game. This is going to be a toss-up, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's going to be there. I haven't seen any footage of the game yet. All I know is that they announced PSVR, and that's all I got. So, I don't know. It's going to be a case of, like, I want to see video of it before I do anything. Obviously, I'm a big anime fan. Obviously, I like rhythm games. Technically, I should really like this game. However, judging on my past experiences with anything that's sort of come out of that part of the world that doesn't really explain itself too great, they're usually kind of miserable. But there is a soundtrack as well that is going to be released alongside this, so I'm assuming that they think the songs are good enough to warrant their own soundtrack, so that's a bonus.
You know, this is completely kind of slightly off track, but like anime, be really good in PSVR or VR in general for anime would be like an anime 360 style VR experience for watching shows. Not in the show, because that would be fucking hard to do, because you wouldn't know where to look. But like, imagine going to theater and watching anime, watching like, I guess it's theater mode on PSVR, but where it gives you the full experience. So based on like, you sit in this theater, and based on what anime you're watching, the surroundings around you will change. So like, if you're watching Sword Art, it's gonna have the Sword Art vibe.
Did you see the video I posted
Titan.
of that one game? It's like, what the hell is it called? Kizumagatsukari or something like that. It was a trailer for the third in a trilogy of movies, anime movies.
But I'm saying like Funimation, like somebody who has a bunch of anime, just be able to do this experience. Ooh, I just punched the mic. Watching it, and it changes around you, so you get more immersed.
Well, that's what it was. It was like you had the little anime girl with you watching the movie in a theater, watching the trailer.
Yes, but that's just the one. What I'm saying is like,
yeah, a fully fledged thing would be great. Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Because I've been watching more and more anime. I've been watching Sword Art Online. I'm only like 7 episodes in.
Are you liking it? It's a cool story, right? It's
kind of fractured sometimes of what's happening, because I feel like it jumps in places and it has weird moments. Like there was one scene, I don't know if I told you this, but I was at work And you've seen it. So like episode 5, you meet this little girl. I can't remember her name is. And one of the scenes is she's in her underwear in her bed, and then he comes to the door, and she gets up and she realizes she doesn't have any clothes on. And I'm down in the break room watching this, and I don't expect this scene to come on because they've not had anything to that point. And then our buddy Tim warned me that there may be some other scenes similar to that down the road, so just be aware. And I was like, cool, thanks for the heads up. But I mean, it wasn't. Yeah, well, it wasn't weird. It's just one of those moments of like, who's watching me right now? Watch this. Like, I feel weird.
That's what I was like when I would watch ASMR in the break room. I'd be like, someone is watching this, and I just must look the weirdest guy in the world just watching this pretend doctor look at my eyes. Or
Jeff makes fun of me for watching NASCAR, so
that's fair.
I watch NASCAR.
Everyone makes fun of you for watching NASCAR, to be fair.
NASCAR's awesome.
Okay.
Anyway.
The other one, this is one that actually was announced a little while ago, but we missed it last week, obviously, because we were off. But I wanted to touch on it because everything about this game, A, yeah, looks great, and B, like, screams things that I enjoy. So it's called Torn.
Is it British?
So I don't actually know if it is. Yeah. Torn is a dark sci-fi mystery in the style of Black Mirror, my favorite TV show of all time, or a classic episode of The Twilight Zone. It's a narrative game, so we don't want to spoil too much of the story, but what it says is that you take place in a mansion of a physicist who disappeared 64 years ago. The mansion brims with strange Willy Wonka-like machines haphazardly installed into its walls and floors. The question is, what are they there for? And more importantly, what happened to the people that built them? Soon after entering the mansion, you will discover a strange tool that allows you to manipulate gravity. This gravity tool can lift titanic objects and reveal hidden circuits and mechanisms built into the fabric of the mansion. By detecting and fixing hidden circuit puzzles, you will begin to bring the mansion back online and awaken its mysterious devices. And when the mansion comes alive, well, that's when things get really interesting. So this sounds really fascinating to me.
Can I? Because I want to. This is important because this is who's behind it. We had a conversation before about like developers who are coming from big studios.
Go ahead.
This is the blurb on their website. It says introducing Torn. In 1953, on the brink of a major scientific breakthrough, the renowned physicist Dr. Lawrence Talbot vanished. For 64 years, his mansion remained hidden, his laboratory, and all work forgotten until now. Aspire Media is proud to introduce Torn, a dark sci-fi fiction inspired by the Twilight Zone and Black Mirror, coming to PSVR this spring. View gameplay trailer. The first game developed in-house by Aspire Media, Torn, was written by Neil Glancy from Stranglehold, Susan O'Connor of Tomb Raider and Bioshock, with an original score by Gary Scheinman from Bioshock, and then Middle-earth: Shadow of War. So you've got some people who've worked on
heavy hitters,
good games behind this, so they hopefully will bring that experience to this game. And everything I've seen so far,
it looks
I'm intrigued about. The only thing I really don't like personally is the magic wand thing that they have, but they have to do that. So it depends on how they implement it, but that's the only thing that kind of took me out because I was like, oh, this
I'm
so
not the biggest puzzle game fan, never have been, but I would play this off the basis of the story alone, probably. So yeah, Torn looks really cool. It was announced a little while back, like I said, but you know, we've been gone for 2 weeks, so we thought we wanted to talk about it real quick and show it off to you, so you guys can take a peek at it and kind of see what you think. So yeah, if you're into you know, dark sci-fi tales in the nature of Black Mirror, etc., then definitely give this one a look. Of course, the description to the blog article and everything, all that stuff is in the description below. Another new game, as like I said, it's mostly just like new games that have been announced this week. There's not a lot in the way of crazy news. Gravity Defying FPS Neverbound is making its way to PSVR. Now, this game looks like a hurl fest. So Neverbound,
it looks very generic and will make you sick.
A little generic, yeah. It's space shooter, except not space shooter like Eve.
Space
it's
station.
Like you're in a space station shooting things. But it is gravity defying in the sense that you can go on the walls and ceilings.
Which is a cool mechanic. It's doing something different.
So
give them credit for that.
Yeah, so, you know, the issue with that, obviously, is in terms of nausea and things like that, because you're going to be running alongside walls and going up them and upside down on the ceiling and killing enemies below you.
There was one where, because they have these little ramps that how you get up onto the wall, and there was one, like, when you walk straight onto it, it wasn't too bad, because you just whoop, and you're flipping over. But it's the ones that walk sideways, because I have issues, as you know, and a lot of people do, I think, with, like, barrel rolls, like the turning 90 degrees
like
on the x-axis, just flipping it. So there was one when, like, while watching the trailer, I went, woo, because I didn't expect it.
And you were just watching the trailer.
Yeah, I wasn't in VR. And it didn't make me sick.
Yeah.
It was just one of those moments of like, I know that's not going to be fun.
Right.
But it's a cool concept. I just think generic skin on top of a cool concept does not make good game.
Does not a good game make?
Yes, does not make good game.
But we will remain to be
see what happens.
As
I'm assuming it supports the aim, but I couldn't tell because I think they had two. I couldn't tell if they had 1 or 2 guns.
I don't think it does. I don't think
that's a miss. Most of every shooting game should support an aim.
I think they should if they don't have double pistols. I think if you have double pistols, then you can't use the aim because it just fucks.
You know what you should do?
Not have double pistols.
You take the double pistols and you just got to go, and then you got an aim.
That'd be cool. I mean, that'd be the original move.
Did you see? Speaking of double pistols, this is again off track. But did you see I can't remember the company, but there's a third-party company that came out with holsters for your Move controllers that make them double pistols, and then when you click the trigger, it clicks the trigger. So assuming that the game uses the trigger as the fire button, it'll shoot. So you're holding pistols, and then you still have access to all your face buttons because it's just literally a shell that goes around it, and the ball sticks out the top. So it still tracks. And I was like, that's clever. And I'm sure they're not that. I didn't look how much they were because I don't play that many shooting games, but I was like,
it'd be good for cold iron.
Because the advantage of that is because one of the things we always say about these other peripherals is the fact that the developers have to support it. That's already supported. You're just literally molding it to the person's hand.
Yeah, you're just trying to make it feel comfortable.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I saw it. I can't remember.
We did that a lot.
I wish I could remember the name of it, but I saw it on Twitter or something. I was like, ooh, should have sent it to you. But you don't read my stuff, so.
That's true. Last bit of news for this week, and we're going to return to the wonderful world of Rec Room.
This is a big deal for some people.
Huge deal, yeah. So, Rec Room update, the Locomotion edition. Yes, this update adds smooth locomotion. We call it walking to Rec Room. It's turned off by default, so if you want to try it out, go to Settings, Gameplay, and enable it there. Please walk with caution. Some players find walking style locomotion quite uncomfortable, and we don't want you getting motion sick. If this is you, leave walking turned off. If you're not sure, we recommend trying small doses of walking before going all in. That's just good advice in general. Please be aware that motion sickness can affect you after you've taken your headset off and can linger for a while. So take it seriously and don't make yourself sad. These are the words from the developers, by the way. Teleport remains fully supported everywhere in Rec Room. There's no reason you have to walk. We've designed walking so you can freely mix it with teleport. You can walk, then teleport over a gap or a ledge, then keep walking, or you can just teleport like always. We have several players on the team who prefer not to walk, so please know that we've got your back if you're not a fan of this type of movement. As of this update, we've also got your back if you are. As with many of our features, this is somewhat experimental, so please let us know what you think. Here's some more things to know. Walking works in the dorm room, rec center, disc golf, soccer, and all custom rooms. It is not currently supported in paintball, laser tag, or the quests, although you can experiment with walking in these modes via custom games. Walking respects your teleport bubble settings, so walking players can't get closer than that unless they room scale. On all platforms, press and hold the move button, A or X on Rift, thumb pad on Vive or Windows MR, move button on the PSVR, and you'll walk in the direction you point. On platforms with joystick style controls, Rift, Vive, and Windows Mixed Reality, the joystick is supported for walking. Okay, so that's walking. But wait, there's more. Introducing the Maker Room. Many custom room creators have asked us for a blank slate room. Well, here it is. The Maker Room starts as a very basic dorm room style room, but it goes beyond that. You can delete all 4 walls, the ceiling, and the floor to get it straight up, somewhat horrifying void that you can fill with just the stuff that you want. The only thing you can't get rid of yet is the sandbox machine. We want to retire this, but haven't gotten there yet, so you got to deal with that for a bit longer. The update sees the return of custom games. You can now create a custom paintball room, tweak the settings so everyone spawns with the quest bow, save that room with a name, and publish it. More than that, you can create a custom version of any activity. You can now tweak things like time and score limit for most of the games where that makes sense. Custom game settings are in watch, this room, and game. There are now spawn points in the sandbox machine. You can combine these with the new spawn chips to create more advanced games. Paintball style games where players are respawned on hit, etc. We'll make a how-to video to explain how to use these and publish an example room in our testing. So there's also some tweaks to the merch booth, some other small tweaks and fixes, whole bunch of stuff going on with Rec Room. Of course, check the link in the description for the full workup. But essentially, smooth loco for Rec Room. How cool is that?
Every time we say anything about Rec Room, it's never
Positive.
bad.
Yeah.
So a couple things here. One, obviously locomotion for people who want it is good, and it kind of sucks it's not supported on because paintball was the first thing I thought of. I think it'd be fun having paintball, but it sounds like it's coming. It's just not supported yet.
Yeah, I think they have to get around that first, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they've got things they got to figure out, which is cool. I was excited about the room editor maker. I've not made anything, but I know the community in this game is fucking amazing.
They're solid, yeah.
So I'm excited to see what they come up with now that they have a blank slate. And you kind of breezed over it, but they're getting rid of the sandbox machine. So I'm interested to see what that's going to become, because I think going over to the machine to get parts is kind of cumbersome at times. So if it's just you watching like a menu setting or whatever it may be, or maybe they have a whole custom mode where you a build mode essentially where you just pop
Special
things up
menu
and just go, yeah.
or something. Yeah.
So I'm interested to see that, but I think this is good. I think at this point we always talk about the games as of right now should have locomotion just because it's not become a standard, but it's
an option.
But it should be there. And shout out to these guys because they've put this game is free first of all,
yeah,
and they put their heart and soul into this game. So
they really have.
It's amazing. I can't praise them enough.
Yeah.
I tell people to get this game. Like when they get Wheezy got a PSVR, I was like, get this game. Yeah. He's like, I already got it. I was like, cool. So Rec Room.
All praise Rec Room and Against Gravity for all the hard work that those guys put in. Special shout outs to Sean as well, who's our kind of contact there.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So spotlight time. It's all you, baby. What you got? I heard you're going to talk to me about a little bit of Knockout League.
Yeah. So our spotlight this week is a game that came out what? 3 weeks
back, 3 weeks maybe.
And I was waiting on it because I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, just because it was a $30 game. It's one of those, that's like the price point of if it's good, I will grab it. Everything I read was amazing. So I can attest that Knockout League is one of the best experiences I've had in VR on multiple levels.
Cool.
Just so you know, it's made by Grab Games. I want to say Grab Bag Games, but that's not what it is. Grab Games, who's worked on, they're exclusively VR, AR developers.
Sweet.
And the thing that got me initially was like any VR game, when you first jump in, they put you in this room and you're able to look around and see, and you're inside of a boxing gym as your main menu, and then you go through and you meet your trainer and go on from there. But the first thing I noticed when I got in the game is you can have up to 3 different saves. Okay. So if you have, like in your case, say your wife wanted to play, but you're going through something, the league on your account, she doesn't have to jump into boxer number 12 because that's where you're at. She can have her own save and go through that way. So for families, that's wonderful. It's great because I could
feel
see
like they don't do that enough in VR. Now that you mention it,
I think a lot of games don't do it.
Yeah,
most games are like 1 save per.
Solid point.
But I like that because I could see this becoming essentially a Wii Sports style game. The first thing I noticed right off the bat, there's 2 things. One was the dude was all up in my face at the beginning. I did not like that. I had to back him up a little bit. So when you first get in, when you go through the tutorial, and kind of like Sprint Vector, you recommend going through the whole tutorial. You will learn a lot. You'll do a lot of ducking. You'll do a lot of swinging. But dude was all up in my grill. Like I don't like people in my bubble. I like having a good 2 to 3 feet between us. So once I got that adjusted, it was fine. The other thing I noticed though, because I did that, is I felt like when you box, they were still up in my face, which is the way it's going to be. But when I went to go punch, I couldn't land a punch. I had to lean way far forward, and of course you're concerned about your TV, you're concerned about things in front of you because you can't see.
Yeah.
But it felt like they could hit me really easy, but for me to hit them, I had to extend farther than I wanted to.
How did you adjust it so the guy was further away from you? Did you just kind of move your head forward or whatever?
Yeah, so I moved forward.
That's probably what
adjusted
it was.
took a step back.
Yeah, that's way it fucked you up.
But I recentered it after I was having issues. I was like, okay, when we're fighting, let me have him up here. Maybe that's what caused the issue. And it still, I felt like I had to punch further than him.
Even when you recentered it?
Even after I recentered it. So I don't know if it's my lighting was messed up or what, which usually I don't have tracking issues that often in my apartment, the way the room's set up. So I don't think it's that. I think it's just I had to extend further. And again, it was also me being conscious that there's a TV in front of me. Right. So I didn't want to go just swing hard and whack the TV, which the TV is still 3 to 4 feet away.
I straight up punched my MacBook in drunken bar fight. Yeah. I was pummeling on a guy on the floor, and I smashed the palm rest there. I was like, holy shit! Yeah, it's dangerous business if you're playing fighting games in VR. Yeah.
So graphically, I was amazed. The lip syncing talking part was a bit weird. It's a cartoony style. as I'm sure you've seen if you've seen any sort of artwork from it. The voiceover was a bit weird, but at some point you just kind of put it out of your mind. It's just like, that's is what it is. The dude at the beginning during the tutorial puts you in. He goes, here's how you punch. Here's how you block. Put your arms up. And it gets really in depth. So the first basic tutorial is punch, block, dodge, that kind of stuff. And then you have the advanced tutorial, which is hooks, uppercuts, how to combo, and go on from there. So one of the things that I really liked that they thought about is for blocking, you have, so on the when you're in the ring on the left side, like the corner, you have what's called basically a stamina meter. It's your life, it's your health. And as you land punches and get combos, that goes up. As you get hit, that goes down. And one of the things I really liked is when your stamina was lower, your gloves, you had two different color gloves when you were blocking. You had a blue glove, which was a solid block, and then you had a purple glove, which was not so solid block. Fun fact, you should make that colorblind mode because that is so close for me to tell. I wish that's some feedback I'd give to them is I couldn't, sometimes the difference was hard.
ablegamers.org, send them an email.
Yeah. But it was really cool though with that ability. So there was one fight I was doing, and I would get to the point where the guy was about to knock me out. It was the first fight I did, and he would just pummel me because I didn't know, because it's very much Mike Tyson Punch Out with everybody has a set of moves that you do, and you have to learn that set of moves.
Gotcha.
So at first you're going to get your ass handed to you because you don't know what
the moves
Dude A is going to do. But once you realize what he does and you counter it, you're fine. So the first fight, I just got my ass handed to me, trying to figure out what he did. I was like, I'm blocking, I'm not hitting him though. So, in the prime example, in the first fighter, what you had to do is the guy was good at blocking his face. You had to punch him in the stomach, so he puts his hands out, and then you can hook him or straight punches, and you learn based on where his hands are positioned, how you could hit him. And I also did feel a little bit like it was cheated. Like it looked like there was an opening, and then the computer was automatically blocked, but whatever. But with the stamina meter on the second fight, I was doing well. I figured out the combination of his moves and was able to dodge and punch him and get it. But he did knock me down a couple times, which is what I expected. I was worn the fuck out. But when you look at your stamina meter, my stamina meter was going down, 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 down. Then all of a sudden, like when the moves set clicked in of what he was going to do, I was able to get that. I didn't get it all the way back up, but I had a ×8 combo. And that health meter goes back up, and you're able to get eventually what's called golden gloves, which means you just wail the fuck on somebody and you knock them down. And one of the things I absolutely loved about it was when they got knocked down, you could see them. They get knocked back. Again, it reminds me a lot of Punch Out. Got knocked back. You see them on the ground. I was showboating to the crowd, like, yeah, fuck you, look at this.
I can picture you in your apartment, just like,
yeah, that's what I was doing. And then he gets back up. After like the first time he was down for like a 4 or 5 count, gets back up, we start boxing again. Second time he was down for about 6, 7, and then the third time was a TKO, technical knockout. And it was a lot of fun, but it was very challenging and a lot of work. When I was done, so you guys won't see it because the footage got corrupted, but I played for about an hour for this because that's all my body could take. I was sweating, tired. I was sweating after the tutorial, kind of like Sprint Vector. And with the workout, the next day, my arms were just like sore. Like they still are kind of sore, not too bad, but like you don't realize how much boxing you're moving when you're going with it, and the ducking, use your abs, all that kind of stuff. And it was just like a legit workout. They also have, which I really did not expect to be in there, they have a calorie tracker. So you put in how much your height and your weight, which is not going to be the most accurate thing, but it's in there. And they'll tell you how many calories you've burned while playing the game.
That's cool.
I don't know if there's a goal. I was looking to see if they had like some sort of goal, like it'll tell you when you hit 10,000 calories burned in game or whatever.
It's neat that's what they're looking at, though. They're like they actually recognize, that it's a fitness thing, because I think like games like Sprint Vector and others. Well, there's plenty of them at this point.
Yeah. But
other sort of mobile or mobility games for the VR kind of don't ever really draw attention to the fact that they can be used as actual exercise. Mm-hmm. The nice part about it is essentially if you think about like even like running games and things like that, like when you're running in the real world, it's nice, but you might have the same path over and over again. Maybe you want to run on a beach, you know, and then you put the VR headset on and hey presto, you're on a beach. So I like the idea that they're actually like they recognize it as a
and it's an option.
Game.
You don't have to if you're whatever about putting your weight in. You can skip it and doesn't matter.
That's good.
I always play with my Apple Watch on usually, so it tracks that way as well.
Did you feel like you were getting better at boxing by playing the game? Actually, like improving your skill set there?
No, it felt more gaming.
Okay.
So like I was more focused instead of being focused on like the only time I really focused on like boxing aspects was blocking, because again, once you figured out what you needed to do to the character, you just did those moves. So the first guy, I can't remember his name was, but the first guy you fight, which is the only one I ended up defeating in the hour I played, because again, it was hard trying to figure out some of these combos, because the first guy had 3 different things he did, and the second guy I think he had 3 as well, 3 different like
moves,
ways he went at you. So you have to learn change halfway through. So the first guy, it was starting, you learn to punch him in the gut. He then puts his hand down, and you can... What I learned worked best. I initially was just going to punch him straight on, and that worked, but not very well. But I learned if you hook, it'll register a hook, and you can just hook and just beat him back and forth, left and right, and he'll get knocked back and forth, and he takes more damage that way because you're getting 3 or 4 hits in versus 1. And you can also do a combination of a hook, a straight jab in, or an uppercut. So it worked well there. But then he went from that to, he was just doing straight shots in, or he would do a hook every so often, so you had to duck out of the way and then hit him. There was one moment when I was playing him on his, I think it was the second phase of the first guy, where I was beating him. Then all of a sudden, he just goes in like super mode, I'm going to call it, because I don't know what else to call it, where he gets all glowy, and I'm like, oh, fuck, something's about to happen. I don't know what's about to happen.
I'm about to get on.
Yeah, he's going to hit me hard if I don't figure out what's going to happen here real quick. And he does this charge, and he does a hook-uppercut combination, but the problem with it is the game, initially, you can early dodge. I don't know if the AI was reading which way I was going, but it felt like if I went early, he would go that direction, which is good because it makes you box a little bit better versus like, oh, I see this trigger, I know to do this, versus I see this trigger, I've got to time this out now to go down or go up or whatever it may be. So it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. The character designs were really well done. Like I said, I only made it to 2 boxers, which were humanoid peoples. You can see on the page here, that's the first guy I fought. I did not make it to the octopus that is in there. I'm very scared to see what that is like.
I'm excited that there is an octopus that you get to fight.
Yeah, very scared to see what that's like.
His special with 8 fucking gloves on is going to be interesting.
Yeah, just hugs you and just punches back and forth.
Just like pummels the shit out.
When you do get knocked down, I don't know what to call it, because you're technically not knocked out, you're knocked down. The screen does go black, and it's a little bit of like, it's not a fall, but it's you do know you go back, like you're stunned backwards. And the other thing that they do well is if you do a block that's not a good, it's a purple block, as I'll call it, the not good block, you'll be stunned, and your hands will go invisible, so you can't punch back. And the more stamina you have, the better you are with something like that. So say you do a bad block in the beginning, you can still punch back quicker because your stamina's back. If you do a bad block at the end and your stamina bar, health bar, whatever you want to call it, is like a quarter left, you have to wait longer, so you just basically have to wait till the next set of moves to happen. So it's important to get blocks down. I felt myself playing way more defensive than aggressive, because
which makes sense. I mean, that's the best boxers really know how to do defense. And,
yeah, because I started playing it like Wii Boxing initially, where you just started wailing, and I was like, nothing's happening. And then I quickly realized like that's not the way you should do it. I then went to the punch out mentality of like, let me see what he's doing and try and counter what he's doing. And then once I figured that out, it became a better experience.
But you said it was one of the best experiences you've had, and you've mentioned a couple things you didn't like about it. So what puts it that far up there on the list?
Just the overall presentation of it. I think that's what it is. They do the things that annoy me were little things inside of a great thing. So I like boxing games. I think boxing is perfect for VR. I loved Wii Sports Boxing, or whatever the hell they called it. I loved in Kinect had a boxing game as well. I absolutely loved, and I think it's a lot of fun because it's a weird combination of being a boxing game and being cartoony, and I think I loved it because it made me feel like I was back in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and the nostalgia for me pulled real hard on that one, and the character development or changes as you went from character to character, the progression is in each fight, and you can see the part that really sucks for me personally is you can see the clock's above them in front of you, so you have, I think it's 5 minutes per round. 5 minutes doesn't sound like a lot until you're boxing for 5 minutes, and you'll look up, you'll be like, oh god, I'm tired, and you look up like, I still got 3 minutes left.
30 seconds passed.
Yeah, still got 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
So I think it's not one thing that made it great. It's the overall. They did the overall package really well, and the gripes I had were just kind of nitpicks in here and there.
That's
Were
cool.
like being close to you or the voice acting. Nothing that broke the game. There's no moment in the game outside of the punching and feeling I had to go further that made me go, oh, this doesn't feel right. Once I did the extension, you were fine, all that kind of stuff. I didn't see like a training mode though outside the tutorial. I wish they would have like a dummy or whatever so you can practice combos and all this kind of stuff, but I didn't see it. Doesn't mean it's not there. But
Yes, you can use one of those extra save accounts. Just practice with those.
yeah,
Try not to fuck up your main save.
but you're playing the same. It doesn't matter because you're still fighting the same people.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I thoroughly enjoyed the game. I think it's well worth the $30. I paid. I think was it on sale when I bought it? No, I think I paid full price for it. And I absolutely love it. And like I said, from a workout standpoint, my workout routine is now 30-minute sprint vector, 30 minutes knockout league. And by the time I'm done, I've burned a lot of calories. My headset is sweaty. And one thing I will say, though, when you're playing these games or sprint vector, don't put the mask directly up to your face. Leave a gap. That way it doesn't fog up. Because I have a lot of people that are in groups or whatever, and they say the mask fogs up. If you just leave that little bit of a gap, it makes a big difference when it comes to not being able to see. So, Knockout League, I was thoroughly impressed by it. Like I said, the overall presentation is what got me. The game felt natural. I guess that's why I liked it the most. It felt what I felt like I should do is what I was doing.
It's comfortable.
Yeah, it was. I could hand this to anybody and say you're boxing, and they could figure it out outside of like how to. I think dodging was the hardest part, but anybody could figure out how to do boxing in VR.
Awesome.
So, huge fan of it.
Thanks. So there you go. Knockout League. Still $30, I believe, right? In the store right now. I don't think it's on sale this week or anything. So, yeah, Knockout League, $30. Gets Keegan's seal of approval. I definitely have wanted to play it for a while, so I'll give it a shot here at some point. I opted to go for Drunken Bar Fight on the humor sort of side of things, but I have been wanting to try a proper boxing game in VR. The problem with me is that obviously I'm not exactly a very healthy person. So
but this can get you healthy. That's what I'm using it for. Like, this is my workout routine.
I liked Sprint Vector a lot, but I also realized that half the reason why I was getting so tired playing Sprint Vector was just because I wasn't doing it right. I was like making these big, grandiose movements when you don't have to. You just have to do the technique right.
Yeah, but part of the immersion is doing the big, grandiose movement.
I guess like if you're in like a last-minute run to try and get first or whatever.
Because I loved, my favorite part of Sprint Vector was doing the exaggerated, like, pulling yourself. Because I felt like, because there's video of you playing where you just go like this and you're very rarely moved, but for me it's like I'm gonna put the whole body into it.
Yeah,
I'm a whole body
myself
type guy.
up really bad though. Like under my arms and stuff were like aching for like 3 days after.
That's called using muscles, Tom.
Yeah,
that's what happens when you work out. That's.
I don't.
I would hate.
That.
Yeah, I know. That'll help you with it. That's
muscles.
not something unheard of. That's called working out.
Anyway, so thanks for that. All right, Spotlight Knockout League, get it. Thumbs up from Keegan. I'll let you know if I ever play it. My opinion. All right, cool. So let's go to the last, but not least, part of the podcast today, which is going to be our question. This is a layover question. I was going to ask it a couple weeks ago, but then we got sidetracked with some other stuff, so I decided to pull it out today. And it's a question that I think is relevant to a lot of like more recent games that have come out. So the question is this: does VR get a pass for low-length titles if the quality is there? So in terms of like we had Moss recently came out, 2.5 hour experience. We had Inpatient, 2.5 hour experience. We had Bravo Team, 2.5 hour experience. Those games, are supremely polished for the most part. It's just that they're not very long. So instead of like the typical, I would say like most regular flat games, usually 5-6 hours is going to be the like smallest they're ever going to be for like a double or triple A experience, and then they go all the way up to obviously like hundreds of hours for RPGs. But for like a standard, like let's say like an Uncharted style game, you're talking what 10 to 15, right? So anywhere from like 5 to 20 is kind of what you're looking at with a flat game. But with VR, there's an awful lot of like half-hour games, hour-long games, and then you have these bigger ones recently that let a few people down with their length of being only 2 hours or so. Do you think that if the quality of the game is high level, that you can ignore the length completely, or should they still try and make it a longer experience?
Don't sacrifice length for padding. Like, padding should not be a thing. Quality and or length and padding are two different things.
Explain to the lovely audience what you mean by padding.
So padding would be, like, let's use the example of Bravo Team. Bravo Team had issues because of some locomotion, all this kind of stuff. It wasn't very enough environments. But would you rather have a game that is longer and just the same stuff over and over again, or would you rather have them do unique experiences with it? And I think that's a lot of it. Like, most people understand a game loop, game mechanics. So The Division, I'll use that as an example. The Division has the same game loop. You start a mission, you're running, you shoot a wave of enemies, some more enemies come, you got a big boss or a mini boss, then you shoot more enemies, and you got a big boss and you kill them. That's the basic game loop of the Division. Where the Division, I think, is exciting, but it got boring at the end, was you're doing the same things over and over again. So if you get to a game that you're doing the same thing over and over again, that's not going to matter, because most people won't get to hour 20 because I've done my fill. I know what I'm expecting here. So I don't know. I feel like if the quality is going to continue on, yes. If the quality is not going to continue on, then no. So you think if after your initial 2.5 hours or whatever, that there would be a drop in the overall quality of the title itself? I don't think there'll be a drop. I just think it's going to be the same thing. Okay. So you don't want it to be repetitive. Because think about those games that are 10 to 15 hours. Yeah. How many changes or switches, in whether it's mechanics or something else, that they add in as you go along that you discover? So that's kind of where I stand. Is if it's... You think it's harder to do in VR? I don't think it's harder. I just think it's one of those things where they want to nail what they've got done. I worry about mechanics in VR, I'll be honest. I feel like mechanics in a regular game are far easier to fine-tune and hone than mechanics in VR, because any mistake you make to mechanics in VR could, it either is exaggerated quite significantly, or it can ruin the game experience to the point where no one buys your game because they get sick or whatever it might be with your mechanic. So I think there's definitely like a certain level of like, okay, we can't go too crazy with it, like maybe as much as we want to go to. I'm there with you. I think you're right. I think it's better to not pad it with repetitive kind of BS and to keep it concise and original. I think in the case of like Moss or of Impatient, as long as they finish what they set out to do and finish a story and don't leave a cliffhanger. Like the worst part to me is if they release Moss or Impatient and they leave it on a cliffhanger and then, hey, 6 months later, Impatient 2 announced. Like that I have an issue with, because you should say from the beginning it's episodic, whatever it may be. I feel like they did that with Moss, I'll be honest. I feel like at the end of the Moss they were hinting heavily at Chapter 2. But I think they did it in a way that made it feel like it's going to be a different tale, though. But did you feel like ended the main story? Did you feel like the story had a closure? Yeah. I do. I feel like they basically set everything up. They did this like epic adventure of Quill versus the snake, and then by the time everything was over, it was almost like, okay, Quill still has the power of the reader with her. She can get into other adventures. There's this other thing that's going on, and so it kind of hinted at the idea that you will see Quill again, probably not in this context, but she'll be back. Well, it's like if you look at like any game that has sequels from a AAA. So let's use Halo as an example. Sure. The Halo storyline, each game of Halo felt like it was its own story, and it felt like it had beginning, middle, and end. It wasn't like... The big complaint I had with Star Wars The Last Jedi was I felt like it was a sandwich in a burger. It was the meat in the middle that was like... If you hadn't seen the other ones, yeah, you had your bun, which was The Force Awakens. You have your meat. By the way, we're waiting for the toppings to come out in 2 years. Like... But that kind of follows the same path that the original Star Wars movies had. I don't like that, though. Empire was like widely regarded as the best one. But I still have the same feeling about that, where I don't like that aspect of it. And it's funny because I've gotten arguments with people about it where I felt like it was not closed. It left so much open because they knew they're going to do something else. And I understand you have to keep a story thread or story arc going if you're going to do multiple movies. But at the same time, it's just like, what now? Like Harry Potter is a prime example of something that obviously went multiple years and they had multiple movies. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone had a definitive end where Voldemort, Quill was eliminated, Voldemort was dead, quote unquote dead again, but obviously he didn't die. So that story felt like it had closure, and you just assumed at that point, without knowing there's going to be, I mean, you knew the movie was going to have other ones, but at that point you just assumed that Voldemort's gone for the next little bit or whatever it may be. He may not be able to come back. He's so weak. And I think that's a closure to a story. Same thing with the Chamber of Secrets, the second movie. You fight the Basilisk, Tom Riddle. You have him as Voldemort as a child. Like, they ended that storyline. They can reference back to it, but at the same time, it's not like that storyline does not hinge on what happens next and happens next and happens next.
Standalone.
Yeah, it has a beginning, middle, and end. And I think that's the key importance to something like that. So length doesn't matter to me as long as it has a strong story. Like Firewatch. Firewatch is what, 2.5, 3 hours?
Yeah.
Most people I think would enjoy that experience. Some people have issues with the ending, but I think overall nobody complained about that game with the length because it was so good. Same thing with Oxenfree.
What about price though?
I mean,
because like Moss was asking for what, 30, but Inpatient, Bravo Team, they're 40.
Price does factor in, but price and length should not be connected.
Right.
Again, because padding.
So you just think that
I can make 100...
as long as the experience is tight and it's got the beginning, middle, and end, even if it is a part of a larger whole, that price and length shouldn't matter.
Correct. I mean, price and length should matter, but they should not be linked.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Are you at all, like, I guess, do you consider the difference between comparing something from a regular game and a regular console to something in VR though? Like in terms of like if you have a game like that on a flat console, it's a very different thing to having it in VR. I feel like with VR you almost get added I guess the added bonus of the fact it is in VR. Like it's almost like we talk about how the Switch has built-in value because every game is now portable when you buy it. So the VR almost has added value to any game you play on it because you're having the VR experience, and however they utilize that technology means that yes, your game might be shorter, it might be, you know, not necessarily how you expect a regular game to function, but if it has this level of immersion in it and it has this kind of like this joyous nature to it, like Moss is prime for that because Moss was like,
I think Moss would be a good non-VR game.
Yeah, I do too, but I think that the fact it's in VR makes it that much more special.
I don't think so, because I think it's a good story. A good game not in VR, as long as it translates relatively well, would be a good game in VR. And
yes, but it'd be better in VR.
I don't necessarily agree with that statement.
Okay.
Because you know my stance on sometimes VR is not necessary. So I don't think VR makes games better. I think games made for VR are better experiences than games that are ported for VR. But I also feel like that a good game is a good game no matter what it's on, and VR is just a platform. I look at that more as a platform for it. Is it more immersive at times? Yes. Are you in the world? Yes. But I've played however many hundreds of hours of Overwatch, and Overwatch is a good game, and I've played however many hours of fucking Star Trek, and Star Trek's a good game in VR. Like, I would play Star Trek in VR or non-VR. The VR, to me, for Star Trek, as an example, if Star Trek was, which is now available non-VR, I would play that both ways because the VR is kind of cool because you're on the ship, but from a gameplay perspective, that doesn't do anything. It just is, it looks pretty.
Excuse me.
The visual or the audio commands are what made that game for me that much better. So I disagree with the VR bonus.
So you don't factor in the immersion level as being like extra value for money?
No, because then I would bitch about how much games cost.
Okay.
So to me, like a game is a game. I'm judging a game based on a game, and I think it's unfair to judge VR games versus non-VR games in the same boat because they're two different experiences. And I firmly believe that people do that, and it's not fair. Like, we had the conversation of like traditional games in VR, how would they work? And I think no. And comparing a traditional game to a VR game, and yes, we've had Skyrim, yes, we've had Farpoint, we've had these experiences that have come out for VR. Comparing a traditional game, though, to a VR game, I think is unfair in the fact that we put a premium on VR experiences, even though the game could be the exact same. and I don't think that's right, because that's still a good game. And whether you want to think having VR is better, and I think sometimes it does add to it, but I don't think it adds cost or value to the game. I think it's just another. To me, it's like having another controller scheme or having something else inside the menus that you can flip between. So, I don't know. I don't look at it that way.
No, it's totally fine. That's why I asked you the question. I don't know. I'm kind of. I feel like there's a little bit of extra value that you get out of it in VR. I know, but you're one of the people that also tends to say, like, there's a ton of games that you don't understand why they're in VR, and like The Lost Bear, for example. Like, I thought that the delightful nature of being sat in a chair and having like the environment interact with you and that kind of stuff made it extra special and made it a better experience, and probably something I wouldn't have picked up had it not have been in VR. I kind of got a similar principle with Moss. Like, if Moss was just a 3D platformer or something, I probably wouldn't buy it. But the fact that I get to interact with this little mouse and high-five it and kind of like manipulate the environment, and I actually have to like look around corners to try and find like scrolls and stuff like that, immersed me so much more in the game and gave it, to me anyway, added value. But again, that's personal preference, I suppose. But yeah, I do think there's this weird thing now where I don't think that gamers understand that they're not owed more, which I think is where the problem really lies. I think we should they feel like they're owed more.
We should have lower expectations because they're still discovering the medium.
Right, and I think that's definitely not what's happening. You're getting people that are used to getting those one or two like breakout hits like Resident Evil or Skyrim, and they're now thinking like, okay, so Moss needs to be 15 hours or Impatient needs to be 12 hours or whatever it might be, and that's just not going to be the case because those games are A, really fucking hard to develop, and B, most of them have not had the time to really put in, to get that much. I mean,
one of my favorite interviews, I can't remember who the developer was, but he goes, this was probably 6-8 months ago, was the guy he was like, a VR game, the difference between making the difference between making a VR game and a flat game, or a non-VR game as he called it, but the difference there is a non-VR game, you have all this history to build upon. You already know where you're at, what your mechanics do, what's going to happen when you do X, Y, and Z. Sometimes you have to tweak X, Y, and Z to make something else happen. He goes, in VR, we don't know what X is going to do to Z. We could do X, and X could make you throw up. Yeah. We're learning, like, I wish I could find the interview, but basically the guy was like, we've scrapped ideas that we thought would work perfectly in VR, and the stuff we didn't think would work in VR is working. And we just never thought about this before. And
it's the medium.
I still think we're in an experimental phase of that kind of stuff. But the way I look at things is I don't necessarily think that we should put a premium on VR games. I think that, and I've said this before, I think the base level for a VR game should be higher. Not higher than a traditional game, just higher than what it's been, because we have experiences that show you can do that, and it's just not a dumping platform for ports or mobile ports or these little tiny games that some of them are fun, some of them aren't. But I don't necessarily equate the length of the game to cost, because, I mean, there's games that I played in VR that I'll probably never, like Tumble, I go back to, but like I'm trying to think of a game that, Wayward Sky. I played maybe 5-6 hours, maybe less than that, of Wayward Sky. I never finished it, and I loved it. Do I think that game was worth the whatever I paid for it? I think it was $20. Can't remember. Yeah. Do I feel what I felt cheated if it's shorter? No, because the experience I had in that moment was great.
Right.
So it's kind of how I feel about it. As long as it does well and has, again, the beginning, middle, end, and you feel satisfied with what happened in that experience, then it shouldn't matter. Like the Apollo mission, like we talked about earlier, I felt the Apollo mission was a good experience. I didn't care about the length. I just felt like it could have done more. And that's where I think I fall into the trap of, do I have an issue with something like that? I have an issue with not meeting what I think could happen. And that could just be me having high
expectations. You definitely point out when you think a game could have more involvement or have something.
But that also might be me just trying to have higher expectations for it, because like I've said before, I always want the medium to have a high level, and this is true for any platform, but a high level of polish, because people that come in will see these games, and if you're new or if you're a developer or something like that, you don't want to come in, like you said, people bought Resident Evil, people bought Skyrim, and now they're like, well, what do I do now? Because they have every week, it's like, oh, this little tiny game here, little tiny game there. And it's not the same level as that. So I don't know. I don't necessarily think I don't think they get a pass on length for quality, but I also don't think the two are intermingled.
Cool. What do you think, dear viewers? Do you think that a 2-hour experience is, I guess, is it a detriment to the medium if you're charging $30 or $20 or $40 or whatever for a smaller experience, or do you think it's just kind of part and parcel of the road for VR and just something that we're going to have to get used to, and that you still get high value out of for different reasons, like Keegan mentioned? Where do you sit on that line? Let us know, obviously, in the comments below, and we'd love to hear from you. We've had so much engagement recently. It's been so glorious, all the people that keep coming back time and time again and conversing with us. So let me be first to thank you for all of the time that you spend with us when we have these little conversations and go over these little things. But so yeah, that's our show. That's episode 29 of Codename Morpheus. Hopefully you dug it. All the new releases, the sales, the news, the spotlight on Knockout League, and then our question about length of game versus value, I suppose, is a better way to put it. We should be back like normal next week. I don't think we have any crazy fucking illnesses planned or anything like that.
I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually gonna have bronchitis next week.
Next week's my polio session. No, so we should be back, and hopefully with more of the same. So the best thing you can do for us at this point in time, if you're wondering, these guys are awesome. What can we do to help them out? Number one, share our show. Share it with everyone that you know that has a PSVR headset that you think might dig it. We're not allowed to, well, I say I am not allowed to post on Reddit anymore links to the show for obvious reasons. They don't want me spamming it, and I totally get it, so that's fine. But if you dig the show, you can get away with that because you're not on the show, so that would be helpful too. And of course, you can buy merchandise from the Spreadshirt store, which is...
What is it, Tom?
Spreadshirt.level2gamers.
Nope. Shop.spreadshirt.com/level2gamersstl.
There you go. We have Codename Morpheus shirts up for sale there. I'm actually wearing one under my SK Gaming shirt right now. It's this little, I've shown you before, but you guys know it's a little 8-bit headset that our animator made for us. And then, of course, the other thing you can do if you want to help us without physically giving us any of your time or money, the easiest thing you can do is donate to Able Gamers, because we love those guys and we work with them a lot. We had a great time on a 24-hour stream last week, and if you want to learn more about all that behind-the-scenes goodies, tune in tomorrow, 11:30, for the official Level 2 podcast, where we will discuss the 24-hour stream that we went through. Otherwise, there is also a documentary on the channel from behind the scenes. Do we have any more keys to give away? We do, right? Have a couple still left, maybe?
Maybe. I'd have to look.
Maybe. We want to give away a couple keys on Reddit, too, so stay tuned to Reddit for anything posted by myself or Keegan.
I already gave some away in Reddit.
Yeah.
So
awesome sauce. Cool. So that's it. That's our show. Thank you so much for watching. And as always, welcome to the second level. Bye.
No game.